Believe it or not, there's people out there who still want to do the right thing. Well, somebody that's doing the right thing is my friend Chloe Castillo. You are a classical musician.
Yes.
And you're only like 3 years old.
I believe that my foundation in classical music and knowing what actual good music was is what kind of made me, I guess, be extra bothered by the cultural norms in music today. We need God in our culture, 100%. But I've heard a lot of people say, oh, right, yeah, that's it. So go ahead and, put God in culture and let's start singing Christian music everywhere. It's not just a matter of what they want is wrong. It's a matter of how they go about it is completely backwards.
We definitely need God. There's no good without God.
No.
And these kids just don't have a value system.
No, at all.
And you're people like you who do and speak up about it, you're criticized for it. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. Good to be with you guys. Before we get into it, and we're going to have a lot of fun today, I want you to go over to where podcasts are offered, leave a 5-star rating. That's what we deserve. Leave a review. Tell me what you think. Somebody actually said the other day, Shai, they said, please listen to the show before you leave a review. Like, that's cool. Like, if you know what I actually said. Someone actually commented the other day, Shai, and they said that I was way off on my assessment in saying that no one from Africa ever invented anything. It's not what I said. It's not what I said. I said they didn't invent everything, which is what that commentator on that podcast had said. So I love comments like that because it sparks the debate, it sparks the conversation. And you know what? We're here to get a little controversial from time to time, and I'm not afraid of it. So, I look at this. I look at the shape of this country. I look at the way we are culturally. Forget politically for a little while, because politics is going to flow out of culture. Just forget about politics, because it doesn't matter who they're going to elect president or select or place as president. That they're not going to come eat dinner with you. They're not coming to your neighborhood. But culturally, everything that's happening, it affects you. It affects your children, your grandchildren, and the way we approach this world. It approaches everything we touch, from the things we buy, to the way we communicate, to the way we approach entertainment. It's so many things are at stake right now, because culturally we've become bereft of meaning. We really just have lost everything that has any foundational value to it. So before we get swept away into this cultural mess, I want to encourage you, and I want to tell you there's still some positive things out there. There's some things that you can be optimistic about, because I know most of you are out there holding that sign saying the end is near. I don't believe that. I really don't. I think there's a hope for this country. I believe there's a hope for the future. And I believe that because I believe there's some really good people in the next generation coming along that are going to hold up that standard. I mean, you saw the story a couple of weeks ago of the boys there at the university holding the flag up, not letting it touch the ground while they were being pelted with everything from food to water bottles and all kind of profanity-laced insults being thrown their way, and they stood their ground. And you saw what happened. These boys have been rewarded culturally and praised by people like you and me and others out there of significant note, because they just chose to do the right thing. Believe it or not, there's people out there who still want to do the right thing. Well, somebody that's doing the right thing is my friend Chloe Castillo. Chloe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chad.
Okay, first of all, let me introduce you. You are a classical musician.
Yes.
And you're only like 3 years old. So I don't mean, how in the world? Now, I grew up, I love piano. My mother is a pianist, so I grew up listening. She was a church pianist, so I grew up hearing gospel being played throughout the house. And I just incredible. I'll always hear her style of playing. When did you start playing piano, and when did you decide you were going to go a classical route with piano?
So I started playing piano when I was 4.5. So my grandma gave me her old upright spinet when I was like 3, I think. So I was 3.
Starts early, I know.
Yeah, and I just loved it. I just always went over there, my stuffed animals, and banged around on the keys, and had a good time with it.
Yeah.
And I started asking, can I take lessons? Can I take lessons? My parents were like, well, you're like 3, but okay. So when I was about 4, they signed me up, and I started classical. I started with what's called the Suzuki method, which is where you learn by ear. So like music's just played in your house all day long kind of thing in the background, and you just start picking up on it, and I go over to the piano and just start playing whatever I heard. So I learned by ear mostly, and classical from the very start.
Yeah, I love that. My mother, back to her, she'll watch this episode. I'm going to make her watch it. She'll appreciate this. She gets nervous when I start talking about her, because she gets a little paranoid. She never knows what's going to come out of my mouth. And your mother's sitting right over here. I'm happy she's here. You guys just celebrated Mother's Day. And this is the day after Mother's Day when we're taping this. You guys might be seeing this a little bit later, but my mother has a perfect ear. She has a perfect ear and tiny fingers. Okay,
Same here.
so see,
Exactly
I have
here.
little fingers too. Like I have this sounds weird to say, but like I have a normal size hand and little fingers. I have my mother's fingers. Okay, it's sort of a curse, but anyway, my mother has these little fingers, but it's amazing what she could do on a keyboard with those little fingers, and how much ground she could cover. But she had a perfect ear, and so when she was taking lessons as a young girl, her ear was so good that she did want to learn how to read the music. So for 2 years, she pretended to be reading the music when she was taking the classes. You did that? What's wrong with you women? What is wrong with you girls?
My teacher would put the music up, and I would look at it and just play, and then he'd tell me, what's this note? And I'm like, I don't know. Not sure.
See, to me, that's impressive because there's so much talent. My mother, she said that she would ask the teacher to play it for her so she could just hear it one time, and then she would just play it back and pretend to be reading the music.
Yeah.
That to me is talent. That's incredible. But so if you hear something now, are you able just to go pick it out on the keyboard?
I can pick it out. It depends on the complexity of it, though. Like if it's a whole concerto, I can't just sit down and play it. But yeah, I can pick out basically anything melody-wise or yeah.
Yeah. That's impressive to me. That's wild. And you always knew you wanted to do classical?
Well, I think I was raised with it, though.
Okay.
So just in my house, I never had TV. We didn't have pop music. None of that existed in my world. So I just knew classical music. And then when I was a little bit older, jazz. And I loved jazz. So I grew up on playing classical music and going to classical concerts. And then like the symphony. I was always at the symphony.
Yeah.
And then jazz. Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and the Rat Pack were always in my house. Always.
I love that.
And so my dad, he'd like bet me, the Rat Pack era Vegas days. He got me betting on who was singing. He was like, you can't tell me if this is Frank or Dean. And I was like, yeah, I can, and I always won.
Really?
So yeah, I love it.
That's impressive, and I love that because, again, I was alluding to culture, and we'll get into kind of like the parts you're playing in culture today. But I love it when folks get to know you because you don't find a lot of folks that are young like you are that even know who the Rat Pack is, right?
Yeah.
And much less being able to pick out the nuances of that music and what that meant to an era and a generation of music. I'm passionate about music. I tell people all the time as a joke, I say, I come from a family of musicians and I'm the least musician of all of them. Come from a family of cowboys, I'm the least cowboy of all of them. I'm the only person in my family that was ever able to take those two things and make any money from it. So
you have the business side of it
exactly.
too.
It doesn't matter how mediocre I am. I've managed to build a career out of certain aspects of it. Of course, I use music to tell jokes. There's nothing serious about my music. Hey guys, despite everything the Fed has been trying, we are still feeling the effects of inflation. You can't deny it. Fill up your car, go grocery shopping, your home repairs, every single thing out there. It's more expensive, and most of you are paying these bills with a credit card. Credit card debt's at an all-time high for Americans, and people are only able to make the minimum payment, and they feel like they're never going to get out of debt. Well, you're probably not. And if you're a homeowner, there is a way out. You need to call my friends at American Financing. They can put together a plan to pay off that high-interest credit card debt and create meaningful savings for you every month. They're saving people just like you an average of $854 a month and closing in as fast as 10 days. Listen, don't wait. Get yourself into a better position. Call their salary-based mortgage consultants today. That means they're not making money off of upselling you, folks. Listen, it costs nothing to see how much you can save. And if you start today, you could delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you greater savings right up front. American Financing can help you get that monkey off your back. Give them a call, 888-675-4090. That's 888-675-4090, or visit AmericanFinancing.net. I always appreciate folks who have a knowledge of music and music culture, right? You talk about the Rat Pack, you talk about classical music. I grew up, I would play classical music. Even when I was a young teenager, I would play classical music at night while I was going to sleep, and I would just kind of let my brain rest to that. Psychologically, I don't know how much my brain rested to some of those, discordant notes and things like that, but I was talking to my girlfriend recently, and I was giving her an example from the life of Tchaikovsky, and about how he kept certain work hours through the day, and there were certain times where people could come visit and meet with him, and he would say, I'm available from like 3 to 5 on Mondays and Thursdays. After that, don't knock. And so she was halfway listening to me, and she goes, "Wait a minute, did you say Tchaikovsky wants to meet with you?" And I was like, "No, no, he's been dead a couple hundred years." So you know what I'm saying? We got a good laugh out of that. But I always loved the ethic of that story, because here was a guy who was so about his craft that he wasn't going to waste his time with people and that kind of deal. Do you have to? I mean, did you love it, or did you just feel like it was something you had to do?
Oh no, I loved it. It was all on me.
Really?
So as a matter of fact, I get frustrated with my mom sometimes when I was practicing.
She's right there, you know.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
And
this is a free space.
Oh yeah, I know.
Say
free
whatever you need
speech.
to. You're safe here.
But because I would get so mad because I'm a perfectionist and I wanted everything to be perfect when I was practicing. I wanted it to be exactly how it said in the music, you know, however I wanted it to be, however I thought it should be played. I would just bang my head against the wall until it was perfect. Yeah. And my mom would be like, you know, you don't have to do this. Because I'd be like, I can't get it, you know. Yeah. And sometimes she'd come in and be like, you don't have to play piano. It's okay. You can do something else. And it would drive me insane because I was like, no, I want to do it. So she always was the one that gave me the out. She was like, you don't have to. It's all right. But I was determined. And it's something I loved, though. Yeah. I would get frustrated, you know, because it's a lot of work, but I loved it. It's just I really enjoy music. I think it's a very important part in people's lives. And I think that kind of goes to show when we have music these days that's so degenerate and so disgusting. Mm-hmm. And to think that that is what's a part of people's lives and kids' lives now. You know, and when my childhood, it was this wonderful, fabulous music. Yeah. And to think that the kids today are being raised with Doja Cat is sickening, you know. Yeah. So it was always me, though.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, and you may not know. I don't know, but I read something the other day because I'm not a Swiftie, right? I don't really know much about Taylor Swift. I know the old stuff. I hear it when it comes on. The new stuff, I have no clue, like the whole Eras tour and stuff like that. But like somebody said to me, they said, "Well, she's using some pretty expletive language now in a lot of her songs, and a lot of these girls, very young girls, are knowing this." And I'm like, because when you think of Taylor Swift, you thought about this young girl who goes to
sweet young blonde, the country singer.
It was sort of that fairy
Toby
tale
Keith founder.
Yeah. Which it wasn't necessarily a fairy tale if you really know, but it was a fairy tale, right? That's the way they built that thing, and now she's doing what she's doing, and God bless her success. But again, you're right. It's the degeneracy of culture, and music and comedy specifically kind of transcend so much and speak to people in a way. That it tears down a lot of barriers, right? And I've told my kids, you know, all four of mine, they're 26, 24, 20, and 17. They're all artists. My 17-year-old, he's in college, and he's about to graduate actually at 17, and he's an engineer, but he's still an artist. Two of my girls are authors. Another one of mine is a professional dancer. She tours with Disney. She's still a female. They haven't forced her to transition in any way, but I told, you know, she was raised right with the right values, but she tours with Disney on Ice and performs. And but I told them, I said, be careful because it's easy, because music can be so seductive.
Oh yeah.
That it can pull your values a certain direction, and you don't even realize that that's happened. That's one of the things that I really do appreciate about you, because, and you need to follow her on Instagram and the socials, classically Chloe. And just keep up with her. And we're going to get into some more of what she's doing in a minute. But this fascinates me right now, because the fact that you went a classical route when you could have gone so many other, and as talented as you are, there's so many different ways you can go. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But I think there is something foundational to classical music in where we are today. Because of, again, there was so much structure. You talked about jazz. I tried to get into jazz. I never understood jazz, because to me, jazz never really resolves. Like there's no real end to the song. They just turn the volume down.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
True. Yeah. The bass and the drums fade.
It just kind of plays out. So I never understood that. Me, I like resolution. And so, but the classical music and the structure of all of that stuff, and we've kind of lost all that. You know, now people are out there making noise, calling it music.
Yep.
And that's kind of reflects on culture. People are making noise, and they're calling it logic or thinking, and it's not.
Yeah, and I think for me, because you keep mentioning the classical music foundation, you know, like right now, I don't think I've practiced a classical piece in like 10 months, which I'm not bragging. Yeah. But, and I miss it, you know.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, but, and I've, you know, grown up practicing like 3 hours a day for years. Yeah. And so it's kind of funny now that I have stepped away from the piano for so long, because I'm, you know, so busy with this movement and with all the things I'm doing. But what's interesting, I think, is that I believe that my foundation in classical music and knowing what actual good music was is what kind of made me, I guess, be extra bothered by the cultural norms in music today. Is like I see it and it's like how do people accept this as music? I don't see how you turn this on like, oh, I'm gonna listen to a song. Like what? Like it blows my mind. I don't understand where that comes from. And so I think that kind of disconnect though, being raised, I was homeschooled, being homeschooled and raised with classical music and jazz, not knowing what this other culture was, then being, introduced to it later was kind of like a cultural shock, but then I think it really did a lot of good though, because now it's opened my eyes to, oh wow, this is what our society is engaging in and consuming, what the kids are consuming, and that needs to be fixed. So I think the classical music background though was a huge part of my mind, just not even understanding where these people are coming from, to be accepting this into culture.
Hey guys, for 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been America's only Christian wireless service provider. When I say the only ones, they are the only ones, and I'm so proud of them as my friends and partners for this show. Patriot Mobile offers dependable nationwide coverage, and they're going to give you the ability to access all three major networks. So if you're used to a certain coverage, you can keep that same coverage, but you can also use Patriot Mobile and not fund all of these big companies that send a portion of your bill to leftist causes. So if you switch to Patriot Mobile, you're sending a message that you support free speech, religious freedom, the sanctity of life, the Second Amendment, our military, veterans, first responder heroes. 100% U.S.-based customer service team makes switching easy. They will even give you free activation when you use promo code CHAD. You can keep your phone. You can keep your number. You can upgrade. They'll help you do that, but they will find the best plan for your family and for your needs. Go to patriotmobile.com/Chad or call them 972-PATRIOT, 972-PATRIOT, or give them a call or check them out online, I should say, patriotmobile.com/Chad. Join me and make the switch today. So you were homeschooled. All four of my kids were homeschooled. I mean, you're not a social degenerate that doesn't know how to carry on a conversation. You're educated. You're talented, you're gifted in so many different ways. The homeschool experience, we'll say this with your mom sitting over there, how was that for you?
It was fantastic for me. And, I think that people talk about homeschool kids can't carry on a conversation. Right. They can't, formulate their thoughts well. They're not socialized like Olivia Rodrigo, her song, I think it's called Ballad of a Homeschool Girl, talks about how homeschooling is social suicide and, on and on about that. So I think that really what does it though is my parents, my mom and my dad both always made sure that I was involved in all kinds of activities. I was in dance class, I was in piano, I was an ambassador for an international piano competition since I was like 9, and I was out there speaking in front of audiences before I performed, introducing my pieces and, giving the backstory on it, and public speaking was like a big thing. Yeah. I was always engaged in our society, I was never just kept in the house by myself. Now, I will say that culturally, I was more sheltered from that kind of stuff. And also, I think that social media had a huge, part of that. I wasn't introduced to social media or TV until I was probably like 12, 13 maybe. So for me, I think that the whole social suicide kind of aspect of homeschooling people talk about is really more of how the parents let their kids engage in society and in culture. It's very important, but I think that the public school route, it doesn't do much good to just stick your kid with a bunch of other kids. How are they going to learn and grow and, get more information from their own peers? So,
hey, Shy, write down the phrase social suicide. And if the next 5 years Chloe doesn't write a book called Social Suicide, I'm writing it, okay? I always tell people my guests, when they say something really profound, I'll give you credit twice and then it's mine, okay?
Okay.
I'll quote you twice.
Well, I'll get busy.
It's mine. Yes, social suicide. That's a great term.
Yeah.
That is a really, really good term because I think that's what's happening, right? You keep up with... are you keeping up? Because I know you're very astute, and you will get to some of the other things that you're doing, like the podcast and things like that, and the voice. And I love the name for that too. What you're doing. I don't want to spoil it yet though. But are you keeping up with what's going on, like with the college campuses and the protests and things like that?
Absolutely.
I mean, in a general thought, I mean, I saw where Jerry Seinfeld, arguably one of the most successful comedians in the history of the world, was speaking at, where was that, North Carolina? Hey, don't quote me on that. He was at a university the other day giving a commencement speech, and they were honoring him with a doctorate. And a lot of the pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel students got up and walked out on him. We've seen that happen over and over again, and it's just the disrespect is there, but just this idea that I'm living to protest something. That's the world we're living in. Like, I need to find a community where we protest something. What are your thoughts on that from your perspective as a young lady?
I think it's honestly because my generation has been raised to expect they deserve everything. They don't think they have to work for a darn thing. They don't think that, they need to respect their elders, respect their society. I think that society as a whole, we've lost respect for each other. And I think COVID had a huge part of this too. We distance ourselves from other people. You go to the grocery store and you're next to someone and they're like afraid to stand next to you. I don't think it's just COVID. I think it's like, oh, there's a human. It's like, it's weird to people.
Yeah.
And I've noticed this with my generation especially. They don't know how to handle conversations or people just around them in general. They're distant. Yeah. And I think the phones too. They're used to it being something they look at here, not right here. And I think that, so people today with the whole protest, I think that they just really have a lack of respect for people around them. They think that everything revolves around themselves. And so with that, then we have these young people who are just out there demanding, we want this, without putting any thought or effort into how they can get that. I mean, think about that. It's not just a matter of what they want is wrong. It's a matter of how they go about it is completely backwards of how a society should be, run normally in a normal country. So I think they need to just, step back, look at what they're protesting first of all, and then if they still believe in it, go about it the right way.
Yeah, stepping back is going to be a hard thing.
Oh, yeah, they're not going to. There's no way.
And like you said, a normal country, we're so far from that at this stage in the game. Because what you said there's a lot to unpack. They don't have any respect for authority.
Nope.
There's no sense of values. Again, as a homeschool parent, we taught our kids values. And we said, more than right and wrong, because what's right for me may not always be right for you in a certain circumstance. But if you value things a certain way, you'll make that right and wrong decision. And these kids just don't have a value system.
No, at all.
And you're people like you who do and speak up about it, you're criticized for it. Like, how dare you have an opinion that's based on a foundation of values or traditional values? Do
you're a bigot.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
And which again, the insults have become complete white noise. You're a racist. You're a Nazi. You're a homophobe.
They just
a
have a
xenophobe,
list they
a
use
transphobe.
for everything.
Yeah, you're a bigot. You're a misogynist. You're all of these things. And I've seen your Instagram. You've spent plenty of time, visiting Mar-a-Lago. I have too. And these days, just the fact that you're at Mar-a-Lago, the home of President Trump, that right there will get you criticized.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they'll come
Absolutely.
at you. How dare you be on the grounds of a resort, that's owned by Donald Trump? I mean, you must be from the dark side or something like that. Do you catch a lot of that stuff? The criticisms?
I found that not a whole lot at this time. It's more like where I get criticized is less on the basis of the left coming after me. It's more the right, actually.
Wow.
More
really?
the conservatives come after me because of what my message is. It's not the normal message of, transgenderism is bad, the vaccine's bad, although I'm with you on all that, I agree. But it's like I've taken it a step further to say, hey, how about all the stuff we're talking about? That's in our culture too, and y'all are still consuming it. And I think people get really mad at me for that because it's like they don't want to have to, start supporting someone who isn't just right there given to them, fed to them in their culture. The left feeds us absolute trash. And we just, as conservatives, we complain about certain songs when it gets extra bad. But then everything in between, we're just like, yeah, it's okay.
That's passable.
We'll do that. Yeah, that's okay. Like Taylor Swift, for example. I can go on and on about that. And so I think that really the criticism for me comes more, I get a lot of, hey, cool, Mar-a-Lago, And then a lot of people are like, oh, but you talked about Taylor Swift? No, that's not okay. I've had people very involved in the conservative movement, I'll just say, DM me back and forth with, that's horrible and like you're so stupid for that and there's no way that you're right and there's no good conservative artists. And I'm like, excuse me, here's a huge list, And one thing that's interesting to me too is I'm told a lot, well, if there were good conservative artists out there, we'd support them. And it's like, well, first of all, there are. I'm looking at one. But then beyond that, let's say there weren't. How about showing some support for the ones that actually are there so that people who are actually good will feel like they can come to this conservative movement and start creating good art that will be supported. If there's no support for who's already there, how are we supposed to have any more people come in and say, oh, here's my art, here's something that's worth listening to that isn't degenerate trash? Yeah. So I think that really the criticism on me just comes from the conservative movement.
I've gotten a lot of that. Hey guys, we talk a lot about COVID and vaccines, long COVID, long vax, dying suddenly. I mean, a lot of buzzwords are out there. Well, you like it or not, between the virus, vaxes, shedding, jabbed or not, most of us, you got toxins inside of your body, man, and it means it's like a ticking time bomb just waiting to blow. We've got all kind of poisons inside of us. So the simple solution to help you and your family is with a company that I know as Warrior Essentials, and I love them. Their patent-pending formula has evolved into the most powerful way to help your body heal itself, turning your God-given defenses for a strong and healthy body just into overdrive. And it's a fantastic thing. Warrior Essentials, it's not a drug. It uses targeted nutrition to work with the body's natural defenses. It removes toxins and it repairs circulatory health. It's going to restore your body back to its ability to heal itself. So today we're able to share a special offer with you guys. Go to recoverwithchad.com, save up to 50% off regular prices plus free shipping. Help get rid of the toxic spike proteins, boost your health. We can't save our country if you've fallen over dead. So recoverwithchad.com, that's recoverwithchad.com for up to 50% off and free shipping. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. And you're right. There is a large list of conservative artists or people with the same values, but you don't have the mainstream backing them. You don't have the big labels and the big production companies backing them because, what I keep saying is there's so many people out there, and this is disheartening, but this is just a fact. There's so many people who just believe whatever the mainstream tells them.
Yes.
If it's the mainstream media, the news, Hollywood, Nashville, Austin, New York, they trot it out there and they say, look, this is fashion. And it's like, I wouldn't wear that. That's not fashion.
Not even clothing.
No, it's not. I'm supposed to walk around in a sack? That's not fashion. But if I put a cowboy hat on, I'm just a hillbilly that doesn't know anything. How you look like, the flying nun that's fixing to take off or something. You're a cosplay cowboy that doesn't have any, this is my therapy session, all hat, no cattle, whatever. But you hear all those things, and I'm like, you guys don't have a clue what fashion is or art or music. Yep. You go to Nashville, and listen, I consider these guys my friends, but I pick on them. Luke Bryan's got songs out there where he's rhyming the word up with up. How many times can you say up? Turn it up. Turn your cup up. It's like, stop. Just stop doing that. That's not music, dude. I get that you're, chanting some kind of anthem and calling that country music, but it's not country music. Traditional country music is offensive. It's got cheating and drinking and dying in it. It's got people riding on a train and they're not supposed to be there, It's not this woke nonsense where you got a girl in cut-off blue jeans on a diamond plate tailgate on a pickup truck backed up in a pasture to a bonfire while speakers go boom, boom, and she sips something out of a Dixie cup. Yep. That's every song that's out there. Yep. And you're telling me, oh, we can't support you guys out there that y'all aren't good enough. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I promise you, our friends like Chris Wallen and Ira Dean and Jeffrey Steele, these guys that you don't even think about as cultural icons of conservatism, but they're talented guys. They've written so many #1 songs. And it's like, you can't tell me these guys aren't the most talented songwriters in the world. They literally have the trophies to prove it, right? Mm-hmm. So they are out there, but the mainstream hasn't told you that it's okay to listen to those people.
Yeah, and that's something that I like to call cross-contamination. We need to cross-contaminate our culture with our society because right now, like the left, I went into, what was it, a Hilton or something the other day? I don't remember what it was. Marriott, Hilton, something. I'm always traveling. I don't know where I am anymore. I'm like Joe Biden at this point. And
oh, no. No.
And I went in somewhere, and I was given, the key to my room. Yeah. And I had the room key, and in the same little, jacket was also an Eras Tour Taylor Swift card.
Oh, really?
And it's just a perfect example. I was like, look at this, Mom. Look what we are doing.
Wow.
The left takes we're driving in, Minute Maid on the way here, the giant Minute Maid headquarters or whatever. Mm-hmm. They had some sports something tied into them. Sorry, I don't know sports. But it shows that they tie everything in together. They tie music, they tie culture, they tie everything in together with businesses and companies. They don't just say, oh, I'm an independent artist and I made it on my own. I think the independent artists that have made it on their own and have like hit several #1 spots is fabulous.
Yeah.
And I think we need to keep doing that. But I think that we then need to take that and use the left's ideas of cross-contaminating, I like to say, and actually support each other in different aspects of our culture. You can't just say, oh, I'm the musician over here and I'm staying right here because no one else is supporting me. The conservative movement, like you said, we have to have that backing. The backing has to be there for these artists to succeed at a larger level, for it to be at the forefront of our culture. So I think that the conservative movement needs to learn a lot from the left. There's a lot that they've done that's brilliant as far as marketing. And honestly, we just need to, pick it up, as Luke Bryan says.
start talking about, I love that concept, and we could go on and on about the cross-pollination and the contamination. You, talking about brilliant marketing, so you're starting a movement. What's it called?
Make music right.
Make music right.
Yep.
See, that could go so many directions. I love that. I love that. What's the premise for that? What are you doing?
So Make Music Right is a movement to bring non-degenerate music of all genres to the forefront of American culture.
Stop. I love that so much. Non-degenerate music.
Just don't be
That
degenerate.
is so in your face.
I know.
Give me a 5. I love that. Keep going. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah,
That's
no,
fantastic.
you're good. Yeah. So, and that's really what we need in our culture, I think. I don't think it needs to be a matter of we have, necessarily clean words. It's not, people say, oh, well, I took out the curse word of Beyonce's Texas Hold'em. Do you know what she's singing about?
Right.
Like, come on, you know? And that's not even the worst song. That's like baby stuff. Everybody was out there, But it's not about the curse words. It's not about the, it's just absolute degeneracy being pushed into our culture, and especially on the kids.
Yeah.
That just irks my soul,
Yeah.
And so I think so Make Music Right, though, is a movement to do this, to bring that non-degenerate music, just simply good music that isn't gross, to the forefront of our American culture.
Yeah.
And, doing so by raising awareness of the issue, first of all, showing people. I think most people don't even know what's going on. Most people don't even know what they're consuming. Like, it's just in your face. Whether you turn it on your phone intentionally or not, it's going to be in the airports, in the grocery store, in the, shopping.
You can't avoid it.
You cannot avoid it. It's everywhere. So bring awareness to this issue of how it's impacting our society and how it's impacting politics, too. The conservative movement gets so fired up over politics, and myself included. And I think we need to start, looking at where are these people who are accepting all of this leftist ideology in politics? Where are these people coming from? They came from culture, how they were raised on culture. They weren't raised on politics. Most people weren't. Most people were raised in a certain culture, and now they're accepting this kind of ideology being pushed on us by the left and by our president and by all that, Yeah. So anyway, people need to be aware of the situation we're in, and then also we need to start showing them the alternatives that are out there, the musicians who are trying and getting their stuff, pushed into our culture. We need to start supporting them, and so Make Music Right's going to do those two things.
Shy, I love good conversations. This is a good conversation. I love this, and I want to say publicly, and I'm going to tell you again privately, anything I can ever do to support, promote, push anything, let me know how I can do that. I'm so impressed.
Appreciate that.
You talk about the Texas Hold'em song. Have you seen that meme where somebody like gets in a wreck, it's a little video meme where somebody gets in a wreck and then they fall out and they're dead or whatever, and the song comes on and they turn it up, and then I saw one the other day. The guy gets hit from behind and he falls over like this, and Texas Hold'em comes on and he wakes back up and turns it off and then goes back again. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's about the way I feel. Oh yeah. About all of that. About all of that. And I don't care if it's Beyonce or anything. I just
calling that country music.
It's not cheating, drinking, and dying. It's a little, it's out there, but it ain't country music.
No.
It's not country music. I think that you're onto something there because, back when I did my little foray into Hollywood, I had written a sitcom, and my manager at the time, he had a number of hit shows that were out there. And he was a TV guy, and he wanted me to go out there and pitch this sitcom. And so Lionsgate picked up my idea, and then Eric Tannenbaum, who was the executive producer for 2.5 Men and a bunch of other shows, he picked up on it. They fell in love with it. So we started going to Hollywood. Well, that was right on the heels of when Roseanne Barr got canceled again for saying what she said about Valerie Jarrett. And so when I went out there, immediately people associated me with Roseanne. And I've told
Not
Roseanne.
a bad thing.
Not to me, it's not. And I've told Roseanne this story, and Roseanne's so funny. Her responses to it are crass but hilarious when I tell her these stories about the things that happened. But I knew immediately they were not interested in me because they knew who I was and they knew where I was coming from. That was also at the time when Tim Allen's Last Man Standing was killing it because it had such conservative values in there. And so half the country was really being ignored by the television industry. So we were trying to punch down that wall. And my manager at the time, Arthur, he said, this will never break through in Hollywood. And I said, can we not just chip at the wall? He goes, either the whole thing falls down at once or it's not going to happen. You can't chip away. And so now, I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, we've uncovered pedophilia rings out there.
Yep.
We've uncovered so much corruption. What was it, the guy that was the creator for Nickelodeon or whatever it was, and now it's come out that he was doing all of this stuff with child actors. And it's like, what's it going to take for that wall to get pushed over in the entertainment industry? Because it's true in the music industry. It's true in the theater industry. It's true in television and film. And so what you're doing, I think, is that chipping away at the wall. And you're doing it with a young voice, an educated and intelligent and insightful voice, which I think is what we need an army of.
Absolutely.
You think that army can be created? Are they out there? We talk about our mutual friend, Hannah Faulkner. You're doing some things with her. I love Hannah. I was just on her show.
Fabulous.
I'm going to get her on mine. But I was just on her show. She's awesome. And so many other folks that we share mutual. Because when you got started, you were doing stuff with what, PragerU?
PragerU, yes.
Yeah.
I started with PragerU when I was 16, I think.
Wow.
And so what I did was I showed up out of nowhere, out of left field or right field maybe, and I came to PragerU or to Prager Force, their student program, their little community online, and I came to them and was like, hey, we need to start something with music. You guys are talking about all these things. You have these great videos explaining common sense things that people need to know, and I think that music has a way of getting to people and getting these messages across, and I just think there's an opportunity here, And I wrote them a letter and sent it in the mail and wrote them an email. And they wrote back in an email and were like, hey, that's great, We're really understaffed. How about you start something on Prager Force? You just start a little group with the other kids, and we'll see where it goes. So pretty fast after that, I just created an Instagram page, and it started growing and growing and growing. And people were like, oh, hey, this music discussion's kind of cool, And it grew, and then they reached out, and Dennis wanted me on his show, and I went on Dennis Prager's show and yacked some more, and and then it just kind of kept growing from there. And they were absolutely fabulous, have been fantastic for the past 2 years, working with me on just supporting however they can, holding meetings, and every month I'd have a monthly meeting where these club members of mine would discuss how music impacts our culture. And it was really cool because an hour every month, we just sit down and talk about this. And so PragerU would promote it, push it. I appreciate it so much. And so that's how I got to start with that. And then based off of that, I think I just got really involved in the conservative movement with this whole idea behind me, and then it's just blown up from there.
That's awesome. And I love how PragerU does a great job of communicating things in a creative way.
They do.
With the animation, with the cartoons, as well as the intelligent voices that they use. And I've always been a big fan of Dennis, and I'd love to call him friend. He's an acquaintance, but I'm just impressed with these. I'm not smart enough to be with these guys. I don't know what, again, I'm the kid with the cowboy hat on. So, but they're doing a great job.
They are.
There's so many different organizations out there that are doing it. And I know with this show, we're always looking for creative ways to put more and more things out here. It was so funny. I thought about, I wanted to find a little 44-key keyboard, like a little Casio deal, here, and just set it in front of you and just be like,
do what I do.
Just insult you. Be like, play something, Anyway, that's just as a joke. But I love that because I think, again, go back to the transcendence, go back to the, the cross-contamination, being able to go, I love that. And just being able to tear down those walls with the various creative means of doing that. So I got connected a couple of years ago. Chris Wallen, who's a multi-platinum songwriter, he's written a ton of hits in the country music world, and he's country. You get on the phone with Chris Wallen, you're going to be there for a while. That's the slowest talking dude. I need
to learn from him.
Oh my gosh, no, don't. He just keep talking fast. I read something years ago that said, because I'm a fast talker, and I read something that the brain processes words at 1,500 words per minute. We can only speak at the fastest 700 words a minute, so talk fast. Chris is like, well, CP, how you doing today? And I'm like, let's get with it, buddy. Come on. Time is precious. But I love Chris. He's my dear friend. He's a writing partner. He's my producer. But he is the A&R division of Based Records. And Based Records reached out to me about doing something. And I was like, why do you guys want me? And I think they wanted me more for the spokesman aspect than they wanted the talent. Although we've put out some really cool songs, and we've got a bunch more coming on that I'm excited about. And you got connected with them as well. How did you get connected?
So I think it was just over social media, actually. I just got out there and started talking, you know, and they found me somehow. I think maybe I found them. I'm not sure, actually. Yeah. And I actually know. I know exactly how it was. Sorry about that. It was Brad Skistimus. It was Five Times August.
5 Times August.
Five times. Brad. So a friend of mine sent me a video. I was like, look at this video. It Ain't No Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
This is awesome. This is a good musician. Like, they were digging for music on the conservative side. You know, this is really cool. And I was like, yeah, it is. And so I just dug into that. And then I found Based Records. And then I actually reached out to Based and was like, hey, can I talk to you guys sometime? And then at a conservative, I think it was AmFest, I said, hey, can I interview? Actually, no, they reached out and said, would you talk to Matthew? And I was like, yeah, can I interview him? And they're like, sure. So I interviewed Matthew at that, and then just kept in touch, and we're sharing each other's stuff back and forth on Instagram. And then they reached out and were like, hey, you had this podcast you started with Make Music Right. And like I said earlier, it's just me in front of my giant grand piano in the middle of the house talking in front of my computer. And they were like, hey, we'd like to, you know, work with you on this. And so we're working out some stuff right now, and hopefully we'll get a show going pretty soon.
Well, I know, you know, Chris called me, and just to kind of give you guys a little glossary here. So Based Records was started in Nashville. Matt Azrieli, who's Canadian, he started Post Millennial. He's a musician, trained musician, and got some money, got a little money behind him. And so he wanted to start a record label that was, so it was Based, it's play on words, B-A-S-T-E, and, you know, the chicken leg or whatever is our logo.
Yeah.
And they wanted a non-woke, uncancelable record label, which is something that was needed because there's so many people in Nashville particularly who just can't get the real music out there.
Yes.
I saw a thing the other day. Who was it? It was Brad Paisley. Every time I say his name, I want to spit now. These woke artists, man, these guys are just. I had it with Brad Paisley. As a longtime fan, I'd had it with him when he went to Ukraine and started, shaking hands with Vladimir Zelensky. I was just over it. It's like, stop. And so he made the comment. He said, you know, the problem is the songwriters don't want to write good music anymore. He's basically blaming mediocre country music on songwriters who don't want to write good music. Chris Wallen and my response was, nonsense. You guys are scared to sing it. You guys are scared. You're scared to put it out there. The real music is out there, and it's in your face. And the public wants it.
They do.
You know, when Aaron Lewis came out with, he and Ira Dean wrote "Am I the Only One?" That's pretty provocative. I mean, it's a gut punch. People loved it. I mean, they say he sold more of those singles. That was streamed more than all of his music with Stained combined.
And you know, I think that shows something too, because honestly, I think that music that's like politically charged or whatever, that kind of music isn't what the youth wants just to turn on. Yeah. But they are so determined to support something that has their values that they're like, this is good, this is speaking truth, it's good music, and they want to support it. And you know, and so I think that really goes to show that they want those alternatives. They want them there, and they're just not being promoted. They're not being pushed into the forefront of our culture. Right. And it's so crucial we do that. And like you were saying in your song, "Famous Again," I love that. It's awesome.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun with that song.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And in the very beginning, you say that, you know, the celebrities are smoking crack and doing things that are bad and whatever, and our kids soak it up like Coca-Cola. Like sponges and Coca-Cola, not just like Coca-Cola. Yeah. And that line just hit home for me, you know. And I think that that's just something that the conservative movement, we need to start within the conservative movement, I believe, as far as changing our culture. When we can get the conservative movement to understand that something needs to happen, then it'll be pushed out into our culture as a whole in America, you know. But that point of that the kids are just soaking up this degeneracy in our culture is so important that we understand how big of an impact that will have on America and where it's going. Yeah. So I just heard that in your song, and I was like, that's just fantastic, because it just hits home completely. Yeah,
that's a good Chris Wallen line right there. I'm not country enough to write a line like that. He did it, though. He nailed it. And that song gets I've played several music festivals recently, and no matter what's going on or who's playing on the lineup, we play that song, and it's a standing ovation. I mean, people are starving for values in their entertainment, and surprisingly so. They want something because they feel like this country's gone so far culturally, off the end, that there's nothing to grasp anymore.
Yep.
There's nothing to hold on to. There's no Velcro loops to stick to anymore. And so people are starving for that. But when they started Based Records, I said, I love the idea. Let's figure out a way to work together. Let's figure something out. I love your mission. I love your vision. And Chris stayed on the phone with me. I think about 8 or 9 months, we finally ironed out some ways to do things. I didn't want any money from them. I didn't want, I was like, nope, I want a partnership. I want people, if you're really putting that voice out there, because what I've tried to tell my audience, listeners and viewers, what I've tried to say is, guys, you're the chisel. If we're chipping away at the wall, you're the chisel, right?
Yes.
We can be the hammer, but you got to be the chisel, and you got to do that by streaming the music and requesting the music and pushing the music, adding it to the playlist. Because something I was going to ask you earlier is like, across genres, you got country, you got rock, you got pop, you got R&B, you got blues, you got whatever, rap, all these different things out there. I don't think genres even matter anymore. I think it's about the playlist. Like, what songs are you adding to your playlist? I can have Mozart, and then it goes to Big and Rich, and I'm just out at the lake, and I don't know what's going to pop up.
That's very true.
So I tell people, I said, your playlist matters. Like, you're basically telling the industry, these are the things I want to hear. And it's so funny. Technology scares me. I think the devil lives in it. I really do. It's social suicide. But it's amazing to me that, I can be listening to a song that is an artist that I know or support and believe in, and I know, like Brad Skistimus, 5 Times August, and Brad's a very dear friend of mine. And his song will be playing, and then all of a sudden, like, just randomly, iTunes will start playing one of my songs after that, because they know we're connected somehow. How they know that, I don't know, but it's just they know we're connected.
Sure.
So it's weird. You're telling that algorithm that this is the stuff we want to hear. But again, until the mainstream tells you that, it's not going to happen.
No.
So I keep telling our audience, you got to support people like you. You got a single coming out.
I do.
You do.
So I'm working with Hadassah Levy. She's an absolutely fantastic, brilliant singer and songwriter. And we're coming out with an album soon. And right now, though, we're coming out with a single in the next couple of weeks, I hope, called Country to Save. And it's to the youth, it's to America, it's to, we need to bring back America. We have a country to save here, and it needs to be done through culture. It needs to be done through values.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited about it. I love the song, and she has just an absolutely amazing voice. I'm on piano and a little bit of vocals. And so, I'm super excited about that.
Country to Save.
Country to Save.
I say that's pretty much in your face of what the song's about.
Yeah, we've got a country to save.
Yeah. I like that. And it's a country worth saving.
Yes.
It's a country worth saving. A lot of the youth today, we go back to those protesters, they don't think it's worth saving.
No.
Because, again, the mainstream's told them that it's not.
They believe that it's worth destroying, though.
Yeah.
They think that what America is needs to go away, and they just are too lazy to move.
Yeah.
But so I think that a lot of my generation, though, they don't appreciate the America that they're growing up in. They think it's trash.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that they're the ones creating the trash. But yeah. It's a mess. I think the youth needs to understand that America is something very special. It's something that has never been done before, and there's a reason it's the greatest country in the world and has been for several years. For 100 years or so, 200 years.
Yeah,
right. I'm trying to see when it went down. Cut the line at there. Yeah. but yeah. So I think that the youth needs to patriotism needs to be restored into their lives. They need to understand that America's worth fighting for. It's not something that they should just throw out the window, because as soon as they do, they're going to be living in a country they did not expect.
It's true. And they don't. Elon Musk posted the other day on X, he said this 2024 could be the last election that is decided by American citizens because of our open borders. Many commentators say this one will not be decided by American citizens. People don't realize. I put the thing out about the SAVE Act that they're trying to push through Congress. The Safeguarding American Voter Eligibility Act. And because people don't realize, they say, well, it's against the law for illegals to vote. Well, technically it is, but there's nothing that's hindering them from
Right,
doing
from
it.
doing it.
There's actually a lawsuit going on right now. I want to say, again, North Carolina. Everything happens in North Carolina in my brain. Where they're investigating because there's illegals who have been receiving ballots in the mail.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say this is a problem. So when Elon Musk astutely says this could be the last election decided by American citizens, we don't have a country anymore.
No.
It is a country to save because we don't have it's going to be virtually unrecognizable. When I was in my 20s, I wasn't lazy. Starting in 2019, when I was 19, this was 1994. I had a break. The first break I had of the summer after college ended that semester. I went to Moscow for 15 days. And it was still heavy under the residue of communism, which had fallen in 1989 and 1990. Still a very dark place. But I wanted to go and see it. I wanted to experience it. I went out into the villages and surrounding areas of Moscow, and it was very bleak. And there was still a very cynical and pessimistic and godless outlook on life. And we went into the high schools and we were teaching. They let us come in and teach a biblical worldview and what that looks like. I mean, imagine being, right after the fall of communism in Moscow and the outskirts, teaching high school students what a worldview that is theistic and godly, has a God in it. Looks like. It was wild, but it was weird. And then I spent a lot of time in third world countries. What that did for me as a college student, and then subsequently after that as a young adult, is it made me realize how great this country was, and how blessed we are, and how privileged. And so many of these people who are wearing their shemagh, scarves that they bought on Amazon.com and think they're little Marxists. It's like, you guys, you're not Marxists. You're buying stuff on Amazon.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm working on a song right now, and I think I'm going to call it Amazon.com, and it's about that. About these protesters who think they're Marxists, and you guys are little capitalists.
That's true. That's very
you've
true.
never done anything.
Yeah.
But and then you want your college loans forgiven. I mean, it's a participation trophy society. You basically said the same thing earlier in other terms. But I'm looking at this, and it's like, you have a value system, I have a value system. What do you think ultimately is lacking in this generation that just doesn't value America? See, I think okay, that's a good point.
I do.
That's a good point.
I think that the lack of a belief in God and the lack of a belief in the need for God. Dennis Prager talks about this a lot. It's very important, not just for people to believe that there is a God, but to believe that the need for God in our society. That's, I think, where a lot of people's values come from. And, I'm a Christian, so I, of course, believe in God. But a lot of people, if you even can't get to that point, you need to believe that there's a need for that. There's a need for a higher power beyond either you or your government. And so I think that's a huge factor in our culture right now, in our society, where it's going so wrong. But I think that especially coming from the music side of this, there's a need in our society for a push for good values in our culture.
Yeah.
It needs to happen because, the politicians aren't going to do it. It's not going to come from that. And we keep pushing for our politicians to have these great values, and then the people who are voting for them don't. So how are we going to elect people with good values if we don't have them ourselves, So I think that right now we're just missing, a huge opportunity, I think, to really push good values in culture through music is just one of my biggest arguments for
Love that.
Yeah.
This is why I started this whole episode with what I said. I have hope. For the future, because I know that you can take voices like your own and multiply it, by the hundreds of thousands and millions. They're out there. Young men and women are out there with that value system. Because I agree with you. This is a disconcerting conversation I've had with a number of my friends. Is I've said, isn't it amazing that the American church, for instance, who claims to have God and have those values, they don't see these open borders as a mission field.
Nope.
Like, the mission field has literally been brought to us, but we don't believe in a life-changing, transforming gospel that has the ability to change these people. We could literally transform this country with the people who are here illegally.
Yes.
If we believed in the power of that message, but we don't, because we're not doing anything about it. I know there's NGOs and nonprofits out there that are making tons of federal funds off of it and calling themselves Christian organizations, but they're not.
It's not. No, it's absolutely not.
No.
Yeah.
It's more of a humanitarian aid thing, but it's also money laundering and all the other nefarious things that are going on. So when I hear you say that, it's encouraging. We definitely need God. There's no good without God.
No.
I mean, there's no standard for good without God. And so we're going to continue to follow that downward spiral of depravity and degradation. It's that law of entropy, that second law of thermodynamics. Everything in motion is eventually going to fall apart. And we're definitely in motion. And we got politicians out there that are creating a long list of problems because they need something to campaign on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And, I think that we need God in our culture, 100%. But I've heard a lot of people say, oh, right, yeah, that's it. So go ahead and, put God in culture and let's start singing Christian music everywhere. And I'm like, no. I'm not saying let's start pushing out all, Christian gospel or Christian pop or whatever. That's not going to fix anything. We have to push values. It's not a matter of just putting the word God in a song.
Agreed.
Or saying Jesus is my savior in a song. That's great and that's wonderful. And we need to push that kind of music too. But it needs to be beyond that. It has to be the values that come from the gospel, the values that come from the Bible in our culture.
Yeah.
And I think that would make the greatest change that we can find.
We were recording 5 different songs, and Chris said, the only problem I have with this list of songs that we're doing, he said, is 4 of them talk about God. And I go, yeah, but they're not like Christian songs per se. Yeah, Make Jesus Famous Again. That song, that has it's got a little bit of a deceptive message because it's a legitimate country song, but the message in it just kind of walks up and slaps you in the back of the head. It does. And so I liked that. But then we've got some others. I said, Chris, this is okay. I said, because people are starving for it. To talk about where your values come from.
Yes.
Because again, there's no standard for good without God.
Yep.
So making a reference to God, I think we need to make more references.
I agree.
To God.
Music back in the day, there's an Elvis song. What's it called? Trying to Get to You. Do you know that song?
No, I don't think I do.
So
I heard it maybe, but I'm surprised at how many songs Elvis did.
Oh, it was a lot.
I mean,
this is early in his career. Career, probably 57 or so. He wrote, I don't know who wrote it, but he sang a song called Trying to Get to You. And in the song, it's all about him trying to get to this girl. She lives far away, and he's traveling for miles to get to her and all this, right? And he'd do anything and blah, blah, blah. No mention of God. To the very last line, he sings something about how it was he above who got me through. I've been traveling night and day. It was he who got me through. He knows, how much I love you and all that. And it's just a very simple but very direct message about how God ties into his relationship.
Yeah.
And that's so simple. It's not a song about God, but it just recognizes it's he above that's getting me through this. Yeah. And it's just a reference to the fact that God needs to be relevant in our lives and relevant in our relationships. And I think that more of that kind of music needs to be everywhere.
I agree. Well, yeah, people tend to talk about what they believe in, and they tend to communicate what their convictions are. I've always said that people will rise to pursue that which they profess. Some people call it name it and claim it. No, I just think you chase after the things that your mind's focused on, right? And if you're focused on those values, like I can get pretty crass. My humor sometimes I can get pretty in your face with some things to kind of punch through the smoke a little bit, and I get pushback on that. People say, You claim to be a person of faith, you claim to be a Christian, and yet you communicate things a certain way. And I was like, yeah, I do, because I'm in a certain arena, and I'm actually battling certain people that I know that I'm not going to get through to them unless we get a little abrasive in that way. It doesn't change who I am or what I believe, because I'll always come back to that foundation. But we're in a battle. I mean, this is a battle, literally. It sounds cliche, but for the soul of a nation. We are, because we have these leaders, quote unquote leaders, the Barack Obamas of the world, who did not like American exceptionalism, who wanted globalization, who wants to bring us down, still does. And then Joe Biden, the puppet, who he doesn't know where he's at.
No.
He doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, he literally doesn't. And that's not just being, a jokester here. The guy's licking a window somewhere right now. I mean, he has no clue until they inject him with whatever opioid they're sticking in him for 20 minutes so he can go out and try to be lucid while he, walks halfway across, the tarmac to get to Marine One, get on the helicopter, and he stops to poop his pants. I mean, this guy's he's in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Because of that, we're in trouble.
Yes.
And then you listen to Kamala Harris, who whatever word salad she's coming up with, it's frightening to know that people like that are. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And so people are like, wow. Talking about the conservative infighting. I've had people who said, well, I can't believe you still support Trump. I don't agree with Trump on his abortion stance. I don't agree with Trump on his spending. I don't agree with Trump on the vaccine stuff. I think he went with the medical information he had by the, quote, experts at that point in time. I don't believe in warp speed. There's various things, and publicly I've called out Donald Trump. But I'm like, here's the guy who has to take the hits right now.
Yeah.
Because he can. And I don't want this continued establishment nonsense that we have by playing politics as usual with any other candidate, and they hate this guy. The fact that they hate him tells me something, you know? Yeah. So what's your thought on that? Like, you got, have you been a Trump person? I mean, I see the pictures at Mar-a-Lago, but I don't want to assume. I don't want to assume.
I love Trump. I think he is a fantastic leader for our nation right now. And people pick on him, with his mean tweets or how he talks and whatever.
Yeah.
I think he's actually a pretty classy guy.
I agree.
And I've heard, I have a friend who just, disagrees to the T of that, Yeah. And I think honestly though that we need a strong leader. And at this point in the game, we don't need someone who's going to get up there and be the perfect politician. We need to get rid of that. It's enough. It's too, the person that comes up there and says, I'm going to do this and this and this, and then doesn't mean a word of it. I think Donald Trump actually means a whole heck of a lot of what he says. And I disagree with certain things as well, but I think that overall he is the best that we have right now. And I think that he has done did a fantastic job with our country when he was in office, and he exposed the absolute insanity of where our country is headed. And I think it's kind of, I was talking to a friend last night, and he was saying, well, don't you think that if Donald Trump just was out of office and we just put in a normal person, and he likes Trump, by the way.
Yeah.
We put in a normal person, all this fighting and insanity about, I hate you because you like Donald Trump kind of agenda and kind of, I guess, feels towards each other would stop. And I said, no, because Donald Trump exposed that. Yeah. It's not that Donald Trump the man is what's creating that. It's that he exposed where our country is. And I think that is so, it was very necessary for us to even try to save America. Yeah. To know where we're coming from, to know what's going on in D.C. and what's going on, and also in our culture, too. I think he exposed a massive amount of that. So I'm all for Trump. I think that he's a fantastic leader, and we need to do whatever we can to get him back in office.
That's insightful. You're right about that.
Yeah, and I want to make one point, like you said. Forge Blow is backing this album with Hadas and I, and he's a Trump rapper, and
I love him. He's a good friend. Yeah.
And he puts out, he just did that video, Black Donald Trump.
Yeah.
We were in the studio and he made that, and it was such a hoot to watch. And
and you gotta respect anybody with a lip tattoo.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, absolutely. You got to. Forgiato is something special. But anyway, so he's a great musician too. And it was funny though watching him, because we just sat there on the couch and he was feeding rap lyrics to Lee, Black Donald Trump, and he turned around at one point because they were using some words that weren't necessarily fabulous. He turned around to me and he said, Chloe, he was like, you gotta hold, just don't go crazy here with this degenerate thing, because
we need a little degeneracy.
He said, I've got to get a little bit degenerate to reach the people who are so far gone.
Yeah. He said, he's in an arena.
He said, yeah.
It's a certain
arena.
I
was like, I really respect that, because for you to know that we should be here, but you're saying, all right, I'm going to go down here and actually make the music that will reach these people and bring them up to a higher standard of living and to expect more of themselves and of society, is a pretty cool thing to be doing. Yeah. So when you said that about, the arena that you're in, that's very important, I think. We can't just come in it from this, perfect Christian standpoint and expect everyone to show up. And
and what I say, and I don't want people to understand, you don't violate who you are.
Exactly.
Like you don't, there's several examples that come to mind. Like Billy Graham, there's a great story about Billy Graham, the great evangelist, and he had gone out and spoken in California, at Berkeley, and he had done a crusade out there, and because there were so many of the hippies in the 60s, he'd let his hair grow down on his shoulders, which for Billy Graham was long.
Right.
And he went out there and he let his hair grow long when he went out and did that crusade, and then he flew to whatever town, Nashville, and as soon as he got off the plane, he went to a barber shop and got his hair cut because he was going to speak to the Southern Baptist Convention. And so it's like he had to enter a certain arena, and he wanted to be relatable to certain people. And you know, we talk about people like, you've probably seen Sound of Freedom, you know, and Tim Ballard, who I've had extensive conversations with. He's been misrepresented in so many different ways. And Tim, when he can legally, he's going to come on the show, wants to tell his side of the story. But he had to do certain things to expose these trafficking rings that most people would be like, that's kind of cringe, you know, what do you do? Otherwise, he wouldn't have been believable. So I appreciate what these folks are doing without violating who they are and their integrity. It's a fine, boy. It's a weird razor. It's a razor sharp edge to walk. It's a crazy one, and you really got to know who you are to do that, and have that sense of identity and know who you are to do it. But yeah, you know, back to your point, like if they'd have run, let's say Ron DeSantis, and I said this a long time ago, and I love Ron DeSantis, fine. I mean, you know, it's great. I think the guy's a good guy. I don't think America needs a Boy Scout right now. And when I say Boy Scout, I don't think he's necessarily that. I think he's tough. I think Ben Carson, who I love, and
Ben Carson's an awesome guy.
He's a Boy Scout, and I say that because Ben Carson told me personally one time at dinner. He said, America didn't need a Boy Scout like me. They needed a warrior like Donald Trump. That's why he dropped out. But they would have taken Ron DeSantis and just added the words, he's worse. Because, you know, in 2002, they hated George W. Bush. You know, they hated him, and now he's hanging out with Michelle Obama. You know, they're best friends. Because, again, they played a game with him. They had to hate him publicly, but he was one of them.
Of course,
With Trump, they legitimately hate.
Oh, yeah.
And I like the fact.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
That he completely melts them down.
He does. And it's interesting to watch, too. That man has some major energy. I mean, I don't know how he does it. He is a warrior through and through. And I think that where we are in our country, that's so necessary. We need, you know, God, and we need a warrior fighting for that. Yeah. And I think that that's, you know, what we've got there.
And he's such a weird dude, which I like.
I love him.
He's so eccentric. You know, he walked up to me in Mar-a-Lago a couple of weeks ago and just looked at me and said, Chad, shook my hand and exchanged a couple of words and then he played DJ on his iPhone during dinner, you know, or it's not his iPhone, his iPad. And I was like, this dude's so weird.
He's got great music.
I love it.
He's got great music.
But it was funny because I was like, and then the news came out right after that, and they were talking about how he does that. And it's like, you guys don't understand. That's the only way he gets a break in conversation. Yeah. Is cranking that music up, because otherwise people are just like this. And he stayed there all night long. Yeah. I mean, that's his house. He could have gone home. He hung out with everybody that night. Yeah. It's wild. So I don't know. We'll see what happens as we head into 2024. I mean, I think that, I want your perspective on this. I think these protests that are happening are a sign of bigger things to come. I think this summer is going to get real interesting.
I think this fall is going to get pretty interesting before the election. Yeah. But yeah, absolutely. I think that, like in Country to Save, you know, to me, it's a perfect song fitting for what those young men did. It's showing that, you know, everyone needs to do something. If it's holding the American flag off the ground, literally, or if it's fighting, you know, in D.C. over bills or whatever you're doing, it's all Americans need to fight. And like you said, if you can do something so simple as just stream a song from an artist who you know is doing something good in our culture, then stream it. It's like 99 cents. Like, it's not going to kill you, you know? And so well, maybe these days it will, but I don't know. But you know.
We got dollar stores that are shutting down around the country.
So, but seriously, it's like, I think individual Americans need to understand the importance of little things like buying those kind of songs, whether you listen to it or not at this point. It's like, support it, do something that's going to help our culture. And, you know, something that bothers me is how adults see this music that might be, you know, not for kids, Doja Cat, Ice Spice, whatever. It's degenerate. It's disgusting. And something that I think that we've lost the adults in America. And, you know, it was a thing back in 2016, or maybe it was 2020, I don't remember. We need an adult back in, this 2020. We need an adult back in the White House, which, you know, we got a little too far from adult, like, you know, senile old man. But, you know.
Fair assessment.
But that whole, you know, idea, we need an adult back, you know, it drove me crazy because it was so rude, you know, to Trump. I love that guy. But the whole idea of needing adults back in America is so true. And right now, I would say most adults, and maybe that's too big of a statement, but a lot of adults in America see what's going on in our culture and to the kids and what they're consuming, and they just go, either they go, I don't know what that is, it's okay, I'm not going to bother myself with looking into it, or they just, you know, like you said, we wonder why they turn out like they did in your song, you know. And that's a very good point. We wonder why the kids in my generation and in the next generation are turning out, walking through H-E-B in their pajama pants. Like, what is this? And it's coming. It's coming from. I think it's coming from a lack of morals and good values and structure in these kids' lives. They're listening to, Ice Spice. You think you're the SHIT or even the fart. I mean, like, what is this? Yeah. Like this, you can't call this music. You can't call it anything other than just degeneracy. You're indulging in degeneracy. And until adults who say, "Oh, well, it's not for kids." Well, guess who's listening? It's the kids. And so you ask about, America and where it's going in, the next few months. I think that, honestly, not to keep bringing up music, but I think it's extremely important. Music and film and all of this, it ties in, Yeah. We can't just focus on who's getting elected, although that's very important, I think until adults start to realize that they need to either quit engaging or accepting this degeneracy in our culture themselves, it's like, well, I don't listen to it. Well, do you accept it when you you buy from Apple and Spotify and all that? Is it something that you can't get around because we have no other platforms? But are you supporting the artists who are on those platforms? Are you supporting them? Are you doing anything to try to get this music out of our general society, out of the population? So I think that where America's going in the next few months, I don't know. But I would hope that soon, through a change in culture, through a change in how we even look at things in the conservative movement, that's something I hit on a lot, I would hope to see my generation really stepping up in trying to make a change in our country, whether it be in politics or in culture. And I'd hope to see my parents' generation, my grandparents' generation backing that and saying, look, we didn't pay attention for years and now it's a mess. And instead of just throwing it on the next generation and wondering why there's such messes, see that there is a problem and start helping the people who are doing everything they can to change it.
Classically Chloe. You got siblings?
I don't.
Good for you. You don't need that riffraff. You don't need that baggage. Well, I was just going to say, if you do, I feel sorry for them because you kind of set a pretty tall standard, pretty high standard.
You're sweet.
No, I'm dead serious with that. I'm so impressed with, and what you said convicted me because I fall into that category of sometimes not wanting to pay attention to the degeneracy that's out there, like Doja Cat. I'm like, I can't tell you what, I know the name, but I can't tell you and I see the sound bites or hear the sound bites or I see the commentary about it, but I can't tell you.
Exactly.
What's really going on there.
But the youth can.
They can, and they are. And I'm convicted about that because I want to know. And for me to engage culture, we talk about going into the arena and punching through the smoke. I want to educate myself more on that because it's easy just to take the low-hanging fruit and say Taylor Swift. But it's so much deeper than that. Because you have so many different people out there with so many voices, but the underpinnings of those foundations tend to be the same.
They do.
And it's degenerate.
I love that word, by the way.
That's a good word.
You can't tell.
I love that. That's kind of part of your mission statement when you talk about your mission there. I think that's great. That's fantastic. My stomach's growling. Oh well, this has been a good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming into the studio. And like I said, anything I can do to support, promote, push you, please don't hesitate. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing with Based Records. I think the podcast is going to be awesome.
I'm excited.
I am too. And again, Chris Wallen, he loves you. Every time he gets on the phone, he's like, Classically Chloe? I was like, yeah.
I've heard.
Yeah. And he'll tell me, he's told me half a dozen times. They're so excited about what you're bringing to the table in regards to that. Because it definitely fills a void. And I know your parents are proud of you, and it's just you're a world changer, and that's
you're sweet.
Well, it's just we need that. I'm one of those people who is a big proponent. And anybody that listens to my show, they're tired of hearing me say this, but I'm going to keep saying it. We've lost critical and complex thought.
Yes,
we've lost it.
Yep.
It's such a refreshing breath of air whenever you come along and you add these things that convict and speak to me and yeah, I'm just taking mental notes throughout because it's educating me, and I appreciate that. Follow her on social media. Pay attention to everything she's doing. When the podcast launches, you need to subscribe to that, and you need to make sure that immediately you start giving her good ratings and reviews because that's going to drive her up in the charts, and that helps the algorithm know who to listen to and who to recommend, and it's going to be good.
I'm
You
very
got so
excited.
many big things in front of you. I mean, so many things to be excited about and look forward to, because it's like talking about the sponge and the Coca-Cola. There's culturally we're a dry sponge.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and you are going to come and just saturate them with so much truth, and it's and you have that talent, which is I hate to call it a shtick. And I come from the comedy world, right? As like, you guys got a shtick. It's just mind blowing, the talent. So yeah, I'm impressed. It's going to be great.
Thank you. I'm super excited about, all the support of people like you and like Bass Records and
Yeah.
down to my parents. It all really, really counts. And I think that when the conservative movement gets wind of this idea, that it's going to really grow.
Yeah. Do you have a website?
I do. So just www.makemusicright.com.
MakeMusicRight.com.
MakeMusicRight.com. And sign up for all updates. It's,
Yeah.
the website is in progress of being created. It's up there, it's made, but it'll get better. There's actually a list of musicians, conservative musicians, working on getting their information about them, where you can stream their music, everything about them, so that you can just go and click through people you want to hear from and just get these people into our culture.
I love that. See, I've been saying for a year now I want to create a website for comedians that are conservatives that are out there.
It's necessary.
Because the mainstream's not going to push them. You can see their schedules, you can see what they've got going on, who they are, and things like that. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Chloe Castillo, thank you for coming in, and you're always welcome. And we'll get you back. You're a Texas girl. You're not. I mean, it's everywhere in Texas is 4 hours from everywhere else.
Right?
So, but
Not the truth.
anyway, thank you for coming in. Hey guys, you can find me at watchchad.com. I'm out there, and we're doing live shows, and we're all across the country. The second half of the year is really heating up. I took it easy. I got lazy shy. The first half of the year, last year almost did me in. I was on the road nonstop. I think I slept in my own bed 60 nights the whole year. So Chloe's out there traveling, doing her thing as well. Follow her on her socials, and make sure you're supporting everything that she's doing. This is how we change culture, folks. Get behind the people who have the platform, have the voices, and are making a difference, and be that chisel. We can be the hammer. You got to be the chisel. The walls out there. People like Bass Records, they are a hammer. They're putting their money where their mouth is, and they're getting things done. Spending a lot of money too to be counterculture. And I'm excited about the future of that regard. But share their stuff. You have a platform too, folks. So share the stuff and make sure that you're putting it on your stories or on your Facebook timelines or whatever it is you're doing. Share the links. I don't care if it's only getting three likes on it, or somebody says, I don't like that guy, or I don't like that girl, whatever. We can live with it. We got thick skin. We've been doing this for a while. Share the stuff. Share the stuff. But find me, watchchad.com. That's where all the fun stuff is. Music made right.
Make music right.
Make music right. I knew I was going to mess that up. I'm the worst at websites. MakeMusicRight.com. Check it out. And thanks for following us. Thanks for supporting us. And thanks for supporting our sponsors. We love you. God bless you. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.